Have you ever tried speaking a new language, but by the time you've translated what you want to say in your head, the conversation has just completely moved on?
Oh, yeah. You definitely know that feeling.
Right. You're just standing there offering this polite, kind of frozen smile while your internal processor is desperately spinning.
Just trying to piece the sentence together.
Exactly. And by the time you're actually ready to speak, everyone else is talking about a totally different subject.
Yeah, it is the classic conversational lag. And honestly, it might be the single biggest hurdle in language learning.
Because it's so frustrating. Right.
Oh, incredibly. I mean, you actually have the perfect response, but it just arrives 10 seconds too late, and the moment is completely gone. It creates this loop of frustration where, people start to doubt their own intelligence.
Which is crazy because it has nothing to do with how smart they are.
Absolutely nothing.
Well, that is exactly what we are tackling in today's deep dive. We are looking at a really fascinating video from the Masu and Fizu show, and they have basically made it their mission to solve this exact problem for you.
It's a great video.
Yeah, we are going to unpack their practical, highly actionable techniques for training your brain to think directly in English or, whatever your target language happens to be, without relying on that exhausting mental translation process.
And what stands out immediately about these sources is just how grounded they are in the reality of human cognition.
Right, it's not super academic.
No, not at all. This isn't about memorizing dense theoretical grammar rules from a textbook. It's about fundamentally changing the mechanical way your brain processes language in real time. I mean, it targets the bottleneck itself.
So this deep dive is absolutely for you if you want practical, aha moments to level up your learning without feeling overwhelmed by information overload.
Yeah, we're keeping it practical today.
For sure. So the source material starts with a story that I think is going to resonate with a lot of people. It's about a student who actually knows plenty of English words. Like, her vocabulary is vast.
She studied a lot.
Exactly. She can sit down and read an entire novel in English with zero problems. But the second she tries to speak to a native speaker, she just completely freezes up.
Right. And that discrepancy between reading and speaking is so common, and there's a very specific reason for it.
Okay, what is it?
Well, when she's reading, the information is really just flowing in one direction. But when she speaks, her brain is suddenly forced to do double duty.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, so first, she generates a completely original thought in her native language. Then she has to hunt through her mental dictionary for the English equivalents for every single word.
Which takes time.
Exactly. Then she has to rearrange those newly translated words to actually fit English grammar rules. And only after all of that can she actually vocalize the sentence.
Wow, it's like an entire assembly line in her head.
Precisely. And by the time a thought travels from the start of that assembly line to the end, the person she's talking to has already moved on.
The moment's gone.
Right. The cognitive load, I mean, the sheer amount of working memory required to juggle all those steps simultaneously is just immense.
I want to throw an analogy at this because reading through the source, it reminded me so much of computing.
Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
It feels like trying to run an old video game through an emulator on a brand new computer. You're taking software designed for one operating system and you're forcing another operating system to, translate the code in real time.
Oh, that's good.
And what happens to the computer? It drains the battery, the fan starts whirring, the screen lies, and the whole machine overheats. It's just exhausting.
It really is.
The obvious solution is just to run the native program, right?
That is a brilliant way to frame it. Honestly, the mental fatigue of running two linguistic operating systems at once is exactly why people feel physically exhausted after, a 30-minute conversation in a new language.
Your brain is basically overheating.
Yeah, exactly. And the source argues that you can actually bypass that emulator entirely. But to do it, you have to embrace a very specific rule that feels kind of counterintuitive to ambitious learners.
Which is?
Keep it simple.
Yeah.
You really do not need fancy, complex vocabulary to start thinking in a new language.
Okay, that sounds great on paper. Keep it simple. But what does that actually look like when you're in the trenches?
Right.
Let's say you're in a kitchen talking to a friend and suddenly you realize you just don't know the word for refrigerator. The natural human instinct is to panic, hit pause, and immediately boot up that mental emulator to search for the translation.
Of course.
And the moment you panic, it feels like your brain just wipes itself completely clean.
Well, that wipe is actually a physiological response.
Really?
Yeah. When you hit that roadblock and panic, your brain releases a spike of cortisol, which is the stress hormone. And cortisol actively blocks your ability to access memory.
Oh, wow. So you literally can't remember.
Oh, right. So not only do you not know the word refrigerator, but suddenly you've forgotten how to say hello.
That is terrifying.
It is. And that is where the technique of circumlocution comes in.
Circumlocution.
Yeah, it's a very technical term for a remarkably simple survival strategy. If you don't know the word refrigerator, you just don't stop. You don't search for a translation.
You just keep going.
Yes. You just describe the object using the incredibly simple words you actually do possess.
Oh, the source gives a great example of this. You just say, the big box in the kitchen where I keep food cold.
Exactly. You talk around the missing piece.
The big box in the kitchen where I keep food cold. I mean, it is so incredibly literal. You sound a bit like a caveman, but it completely works. You communicate the idea perfectly.
You communicate the idea, yeah. But what's happening beneath the surface is even more important.
What do you mean?
Well, when you do that, you are maintaining your mental momentum. If you stop to search for the perfect translation of refrigerator, you hit a cognitive wall. You break the entire flow of the conversation.
Right, you freeze.
But by forcing yourself to describe the object using simple English words you already know, you are forcing your brain to stay engaged in the target language. You are, in that very moment, thinking entirely in English.
Oh, that makes sense. You aren't translating, you're navigating.
Exactly. You're navigating around the pothole instead of crashing the car into it.
What I found so reassuring in the source is the reminder that native speakers do this all the time. Like, we constantly forget words in our own native languages. I do it daily.
We all do.
I'll point at the counter and say, hey, hand me the thing you use to open a bottle.
The bottle opener, right. We don't panic when we do that in our native language because we completely trust our ability to describe our way out of that blank space.
Right.
Circumlocution basically trains you to have that exact same trust in your second language. It keeps the native program running without forcing you to boot up the emulator.
Okay, it's one thing to navigate a missing word when you're already deep in a conversation, but how do we build that reflex before we're put on the spot? I mean, you can't just wait until you're sweating in front of a native speaker to suddenly hope you can improvise like this.
No, definitely not. You have to practice it when the stakes are zero.
Right.
The source suggests that the most powerful way to build this reflex is by basically hijacking your inner monologue.
Hijacking the voice inside your head.
Yeah.
That constant, like, never-ending stream of observations and judgments and random thoughts we all just have running in the background.
Right. For a language learner, that internal narrator almost always speaks in their native language. It's the default setting.
Obviously.
So the strategy here is to actively force that internal voice to speak in English through a process called self-talk or narrating.
Right. They describe this like being the star of your own movie. And you basically have to provide the ongoing voiceover narration for everything you are physically doing. And they give some really granular examples of doing this with just a basic morning routine. Like, you wake up, and instead of just groggily going about your day, you silently think to yourself, I am awake now.
Right.
You sit up and you think, I need to get out of bed. You walk to the bathroom. I am washing my face. The water is cold. You go to the kitchen. I am making toast with butter.
It is a deliberate, real-time commentary of the most mundane actions of your day.
Okay, I have to admit, when I was reading this part, I felt a massive wave of skepticism.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Well, I can just imagine walking around my own kitchen, completely alone, silently declaring to myself, I am taking the eggs.
Right.
It feels ridiculous.
Doesn't that level of basic self-narration feel incredibly silly and just unnatural to most adults?
Oh, it absolutely feels ridiculous.
Yes.
It is going to feel unnatural, slow, and frankly, a bit childish at first.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But we have to push past that awkwardness and really look at the neuroscience of what is actually happening. The source uses a really elegant analogy here. Imagine walking through a dense, completely overgrown forest.
Like a forest with no trails.
Exactly. The very first time you try to walk from one side to the other, there is no path. There are thorny bushes in the way, the ground is uneven, you're tripping over roots.
It's a struggle.
Right. It requires a massive amount of conscious effort and energy to push through, and that is your brain trying to think in a new language for the very first time.
Oh, wow.
But if you walk that exact same route every single day, you start to trample down the weeds, the dirt gets packed down. Eventually, you create a clear, unobstructed dirt pathway.
And once the path is there, you don't even have to look down at your feet anymore.
It becomes completely automatic.
Wow.
What's happening biologically is a process called myelination, When you repeatedly use a specific neural pathway, like narrating, I am taking the eggs every single morning, your brain literally coats that pathway in a fatty substance called myelin.
Okay, and what does myelin do?
It acts like insulation on a copper wire. It makes the electrical signal travel faster and much more efficiently.
Oh, that's fascinating.
So when you force your brain to use English for these simple, repetitive tasks daily, you are demanding that it myelinate those exact pathways. The brain says, okay, we are doing this a lot. I need to make this process cost less energy.
Wow.
And suddenly, the English word just arrives before the native word does.
So the silliness is just the friction of walking through the brush for the first time.
Exactly.
You just have to endure a little bit of awkwardness to pave the road.
And the morning routine is perfect for this because it's so predictable, right? You do the exact same things every day, which means you reuse the same vocabulary, reinforcing that specific neural pathway until it is basically a superhighway.
It is the ultimate low-stakes environment for neuroplasticity.
Well, narrating your toast is great for the predictable parts of your day, but the real test of a language operating system is how it handles a sudden pop-up error.
Yeah. Like, what happens when your brain is forced to improvise? Because real fluency isn't just reciting what's in front of you. It's planning for the future and handling unexpected curveballs.
And this is a really crucial transition in the source. Moving from passive narration to active problem solving represents a massive leap in cognitive development for a language learner.
The source illustrates this beautifully. You sit down with your morning coffee, and instead of planning your day in your native language, you basically construct your mental to-do list in English.
Right.
You think, okay, podcast at 10:00. After that, supermarket. We need milk and bread. You are actually scheduling your life in the target language.
That scheduling is excellent practice, but the real magic happens when they introduce a disruption into that planning.
Oh, the birthday scenario.
Yes.
So you're making your nice, neat list, and suddenly you remember, oh no, I forgot my friend's birthday. I should call her. Maybe I can buy a present.
Now, look closely at what happens to the learner in that moment of simulated panic.
Wait, I'm realizing something looking at this. When you are just saying the water is cold, you are almost just reciting flashcards in a sentence format.
Right.
But when you are panicked about a birthday, you aren't reciting anymore. You are doing actual cognitive heavy lifting. You are manipulating ideas to find a solution.
You've hit on something really crucial there. It's the shift from description to utility.
Utility.
Yeah. When you are passively narrating, you are still somewhat detached. But when a problem arises, urgency just takes over. And urgency overrides the translation mechanism.
Oh, interesting.
When you are frantically trying to figure out if you have enough time to swing by a store and buy a present before a dinner party, you literally do not have the cognitive bandwidth to perfectly translate grammar rules in your head.
So the brain basically has to triage.
Yes, exactly. You abandon perfectionism because the problem just needs solving immediately. You grab whatever English words you have readily available to formulate a plan.
Right.
It might come out as, call her by present quick. It might not be grammatically flawless. But in that moment of problem solving, your brain naturally clicks entirely into English mode.
You are no longer translating.
Right. You are actively strategizing in the target language. That is the magic moment where the emulator shuts down completely because the CPU is just too busy putting out a fire to care about running translation software.
That makes incredible sense. So you navigate the birthday crisis, you figure out the present, the panic subsides. You might even breathe a sigh of relief and try to use a common expression to sum up the situation.
Right.
But that leads right into a whole new trap because we have to confront the one thing that logic and problem solving cannot help you with.
Idioms. The graveyard of direct translation.
The source specifically warns against trying to translate idioms directly because the literal meanings make absolutely zero sense.
None at all.
The example they use is a classic. It's raining cats and dogs. If you take that phrase, run it through your mental translator, and say the literal equivalent to someone in your native language, they're going to look at you like you need medical attention.
Oh, yeah. Every language is just filled with these culturally specific expressions that completely defy logic. If you rely on the emulator, you will constantly stumble over these phrases.
It's inevitable.
Which is why the source emphasizes a major shift in strategy. The secret to real fluency isn't learning more individual words. It's learning to think in full phrases and complete sentences.
Thinking in chunks, basically, rather than assembling individual pieces.
Exactly. And it comes back to cognitive load. If you learn the word raining, the word cats, and the word dogs, your brain has to pull 3 separate files from the filing cabinet, translate them, and try to mash them together.
Which is exhausting.
But if you learn the entire phrase raining cats and dogs as one single unbreakable unit of meaning that just represents heavy rain, you only pull 1 file. It dramatically lowers the processing power required to speak.
So to get to this point where we're thinking in chunks, solving problems, and narrating our lives, the source gives some very specific practical tips to build these habits.
Right.
The first one is to start incredibly small, just 5 minutes a day. Don't try to think in English for 24 hours straight, or you'll just burn out and quit.
It's the principle of spaced repetition versus massed practice. 5 minutes of daily focused neuroplasticity builds that force path much more effectively than a stressful 3-hour marathon cram session once a week.
Which just leads to cognitive fatigue anyway.
Exactly.
The second tip is arguably my favorite. They suggest taking physical sticky notes and labeling things around your house.
Yes.
You write refrigerator and flap it on the fridge. You write door and put it on the door. It's essentially giving your physical house subtitles.
I love that house subtitles imagery. And there is deep science behind why this actually works.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it leverages spatial memory. The hippocampus, which plays a major role in learning and memory, is deeply tied to our spatial navigation. When you associate a vocabulary word with a physical location in your home, you are giving your brain an extra hook to hang the memory on.
That's brilliant.
Every time you walk into your kitchen to get a glass of water, your brain is passively absorbing those English words without you having to actively study. Your environment literally does the heavy lifting for you.
Okay, so I buy the sticky notes, I buy the 5 minutes a day, but I really want to challenge the timeline presented in the source.
Okay, let's hear it.
They claim that if you do this, the daily narration, the sticky notes, the circumlocution, if you commit to this, you will yield noticeable results in just 2 to 3 weeks.
Right.
They even say some people feel changes in just a few days. I have to push back here. Is 2 to 3 weeks actually a realistic timeline for rewiring your brain? Or is that just a motivational hook to stop people from getting discouraged?
Yeah.
Because it sounds a little like clickbait.
It does sound aggressively fast, and honestly, your skepticism is entirely warranted. If they were promising perfect fluency in 3 weeks, it would absolutely be a scam. But we have to look closely at how they define results in this context.
Okay, how are we defining it?
Noticeable results in 2 to 3 weeks does not mean you are suddenly giving complex lectures on quantum physics in flawless English.
Well, that's a relief.
The results they are talking about are the internal feeling of the translation lag beginning to disappear. It's that startling moment you walk down the street and realize, wait, I just thought about getting a coffee and I didn't translate it from my native language first.
Oh, I see.
That specific cognitive shift, like the flickering off of the emulator, can happen very quickly if you provide consistent daily pressure.
Just that first spark of native processing.
Exactly. And this ties into the core underlying philosophy of the entire show, which is progress, not perfection.
Right.
During that 2 to 3 week period, you're going to make a staggering number of mistakes. The source highlights a really common example. A learner saying, I need do, instead of the grammatically correct I need to do.
Which happens all the time.
Yeah. And many learners view that dropped word as a glaring failure. They think, oh, I messed up, the system isn't working.
But the source frames that mistake as a massive victory.
Because it is a victory. That grammatical error is actual, tangible proof that your brain is adapting. Think about it.
Okay.
If you perfectly translated a pre-written sentence from your native language using the emulator, you probably wouldn't miss the word to. But if you say, I need to, it means you are constructing the thought in English in real time.
Oh, wow.
You are improvising on the fly. The dropped word is just a symptom of cognitive growth. You are walking down the forest path. It's not a perfectly paved highway yet. There are still some rocks you might trip over, but you are undeniably on the path.
That reframing just changes everything. A mistake isn't a car crash. It's just a bump on the brand new road you're building.
Exactly.
Those 5-minute daily habits, the self-talk, the planning, they lay down that pavement much faster than people realize, specifically because you stop agonizing over perfect grammar and start prioritizing the actual flow of thoughts.
It all comes down to trusting the brain's desire for efficiency. I mean, the human brain is lazy in the best possible way.
Sure.
It wants to conserve energy. If you consistently demand that it uses a new language for daily survival tasks, even simulated ones like narrating your breakfast or solving a fake birthday crisis, it will eventually automate that process to save energy.
It has no choice.
Right. The translation lag won't just fade, it will become biologically obsolete.
We have covered some incredibly powerful ground today. If you want to stop freezing in conversations, the goal isn't to study harder. The goal is to stop translating entirely. Turn off the emulator.
Turn it off.
If you get stuck on a word, don't let cortisol wipe your memory. Use circumlocution. Describe the big cold box in the kitchen instead of paralyzing yourself searching for the word refrigerator. Just keep the momentum going.
Keep moving forward.
You have to hijack your inner monologue. Narrate your daily routine like, I am awake, the water is cold, and push through the awkwardness to pave those neural pathways. Force yourself to plan your day and solve sudden problems in your target language, shifting your brain from passive recitation to active cognitive heavy lifting.
It's all about that shift.
Learn in full chunks and phrases to bypass the trap of idioms, and leverage your spatial memory by giving your house subtitles with sticky notes.
It really works.
And above all, commit to just 5 minutes a day, embracing every dropped word and awkward sentence as biological proof of your progress. Which leaves me with one final kind of profound thought to mull over, and I want you to think about this too as you go about your day.
Oh.
It builds on everything we've unpacked.
Yeah.
There is a well-known linguistic theory that language fundamentally shapes how we categorize the world, how we express our emotions and how we interact with others.
There.
So if you successfully train your inner monologue to operate entirely in a second language, do you eventually develop a slightly different personality when you are in English mode?
That is a fascinating implication.
Right. If you shut down the emulator and start running entirely on the native software of a new culture, does the voice in your head just speak a different language, or does it actually start to say different things? Does bypassing translation actually change who you are?
It really suggests that fluency isn't just about changing your vocabulary, it's about expanding your identity.
Definitely something to think about the next time you're standing alone in your kitchen, narrating your toast. Until next time, keep exploring.